make this bitch a little. I'm gonna turn the light on, but it's gonna be dark in here right here. We got another video right here. Patrick CC. I be seeing a whole bunch of his videos and shit. Watched a few of them as well, but he just dropped one about Epstein. You know what I'm saying? Let's just see what we talking about right now. I love that. I mean, I ain't gonna say that, but shout out to I'm Dante because I watch him watching his videos, which is making me watch your videos on my channel. You know what I'm saying? So it's all like that. You know what I'm saying? It's all cool. It's all love. So let's see what we talking about, man.
A monster like Jeffrey Epstein did not operate alone. His illegal trafficking enterprise was built around celebrities who never thought they'd be exposed. And after 3.5 million documents were publicized revealing the inner workings of the most disturbing criminal operation in modern history, celebrities are praying they won't be mentioned in this video. But nobody's safe. While names like Elon Musk, Bill Clinton, and President...
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, the presidents, actors just really, they said they was the puppets and shit for all this shit, you know. But
and Donald Trump were expected to be in the files. There were a ton of shocking names that nobody expected. So in this video, I want to focus on the celebs that were connected to Jeffrey Epstein that nobody seems to be talking about. From the ones that claim they did nothing more than take a picture, to others that were deeply entangled in his secret network. The first is not a politician, not a CEO, but a magician, David Copperfield. Perhaps he wasn't your first guess, but David Copperfield certainly isn't a stranger to controversy. In 2007, he made headlines after being accused of essaying a woman named Lacey L. Carroll. She claimed that Copperfield had lured her to his private Caribbean island under the false pretense of helping her jumpstart a modeling career and then assaulted her. A federal investigation was conducted for 2 years until early 2010 when the case was...
This says 2010, bro. That's 16 years ago. The whole little shit just been going on.
Dropped by the courts. Copperfield not only proclaimed that the allegations were false, but that he was actually the victim.
Finally, things, come to light. Unfortunately, in the press, what happens is...
people remember the charge, they don't remember the exoneration.
Exactly. Not only exoneration, but I was the victim.
Throughout 2004 and 2005...
Look how she looking at you. She already know you ain't shit, and she know you lying in your teeth and shit. She know who you are. She know what type of people you are.
David had left 16 different messages for Epstein, indicating that the two had a close personal relationship. In one message, he even affectionately referred to himself as Magic David. Legal representatives for Copperfield denied he ever personally reached out to Jeffrey. Any messages that were left would have been left by our client's office in response to a request by Epstein for tickets to a show. On top of that, they made it clear that Copperfield was not a friend of Jeffrey Epstein. However, the recent file dump paints a much different picture. It is true that Epstein frequently purchased tickets for David Copperfield.
See, like, it's hard to hear you say that you don't fuck with a person, y'all was never friends and stuff like that, but he hit you up to trying to get the plug for some free tickets. You know what I'm saying? Y'all gotta be this close to be doing stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Even if some tickets, like, that's petty, but just like, you know what I'm saying? That's your job not to, so you fucking up the rules for real for him, so it's like, how close does it really get, like, how deep is this shit for real?
Shows. However, it's also made clear that the two had a close personal relationship, with Copperfield being directly referred to as a friend.
He is friends with, oh shit, GG's. Sent from the iPhone. Chill out.
Of Jeffrey's. However, this was just...
Can I get the tickets for the 9th?
is the tip of the iceberg, as the details of Copperfield's 2007 investigation found their way into the released Epstein files. During the investigation, multiple alleged victims and witnesses were interviewed by the FBI. After Jeffrey Epstein's name was mentioned, the FBI wanted to see if the two had a criminal relationship. It reads, "A review of the evidence seized from search warrants executed on Copperfield's residence, warehouse, and at the MGM Grand Hollywood Theater where he performs show a number of other occasions when he provided complimentary tickets to Epstein and his guests. Epstein's name and information is contained within Copperfield's personal telephone list. A clear connection between Copperfield and Epstein exists that requires further investigation to determine if they both shared a predilection for minors. In addition, the investigation needs to determine if they engage in referring possible victims to each other." Shortly after his name was revealed to be in the files, The Guardian published an article revealing that 16 different women had accused him of SA over the span of nearly 4 decades. More than half are alleged to have been teenagers, with one of them being as young as 15 years old. One of the girls supposedly was also a victim of Epstein and claimed that Copperfield asked if she was, quote, aware that girls were getting paid to find other girls for Epstein. If the
Oh shit. I don't think you was supposed to tell her that. I don't think you was supposed to tell her that.
this was true, that would heavily imply that David was well aware of the trafficking operation and was potentially a part of it. But David vehemently denies any wrongdoing. His lawyer said, "Our client did not know about Epstein's horrific crimes. Like the rest of the world, he learned about it from the press. But when people saw this photo of Copperfield cozied up in a bathroom robe hugging on Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey's second-in-command, they doubted that David had no idea what was going on." Additionally, an FBI memo sent from an agent who investigated Copperfield in 2007 claimed that he and Epstein had a, quote, very close relationship. In August of 2007, the Seattle FBI opened an investigation on David Copperfield in a relationship to a R-word of a young female. The investigation showed that Copperfield trained his employees to identify young females, teens to early 20s, in the audience of his shows. The females were separated from their boyfriends, families, and husbands and were brought backstage. Copperfield's employees were given access to a notebook that instructed them.
I like watching some of a few little Kevin Hart shows, Cat Williams and shit like that. They talk about something. He got the audience and shit like that staged as like girlfriends over there, girls without no boyfriends, and then you got single girls over there, and it's like that. Well, we got the wifeys in the middle, like yo.
On how to provide Copperfield with females. He kept a notebook with the females he was with, included in the notebook that contained contact information, whether he had X with them, and a photograph. I don't know if any of his victims were underage.
That's why y'all got so many fucking pictures.
Some of the females. Considering Copperfield's history of allegations, the multiple FBI investigations on him.
They talking about some of this nigga's he does magic or whatever, but I never heard of this nigga, and I never seen him no type of magic tricks, like, bro.
Him and the fact that he seems to have blatantly lied about his ties to Epstein, David Copperfield finds himself at the center of a PR nightmare. And in spite of his expertise as a world-famous illusionist, there's nothing he can do to make this scandal disappear. But if you thought Epstein rubbing shoulders with magicians was weird, you'll be suspicious of his relationship with NASCAR driver Brian Vickers. But before we dive deeper, at this point in my life, the most important thing to me is my health. I might have ignored it's booked through ZocDoc. ZocDoc.com's care you need with ease. Thanks, ZocDoc. In 2015, Brian married a woman named Sarah Kellen, who is accused of assisting Epstein in his ex-trafficking operation all the way back to 2003. Sarah's name can be found multiple times inside of Jeff.
If you was doing on some other shit before you was fucked up, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. Yo, motherfucking, your past, I ain't gonna lie, your past is your past, you feel me? I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna judge you from your past and shit like that, but when we on some shit like, you know what I'm saying? But if I wife you and then you was fucking with, you had something around with that dude, I ain't gonna lie, that's a turn off. Red flag right there. I can't, no. No, what?
Jeffrey Epstein's 2008 indictment, where she was listed as a co-conspirator. When Epstein was arrested a second time in 2019, her name began making the rounds in articles discussing the many behind-the-scenes faces who kept his operation afloat. Sarah publicly challenged the narrative that she played a part in Epstein's trafficking ring, actually framing herself as a victim of his, and claimed to have been frequently subjected to abuse at his hands. However, the filings tell a different story. Sarah was found to have scheduled flights for Epstein and his victims, as well as facilitating those same victims to perform massages for Epstein. One victim, under the pseudonym of Carolyn, alleged that Kellen took nude photos of her when she was underage. Sarah Kellen is accused of serving as Ghislaine Maxwell's second-in-command, taking over many of her responsibilities and directly facilitating the abuse of countless numbers of victims.
Oh God, I be hearing a whole bunch of shit about this girl right here. Like, I be seeing her face a lot. When we talking about Epstein, we see this girl's face. At first I thought it was like partner, you know what I'm saying, sister, that's your wife, you know what I'm saying, that's her partner. They said they was never married in that relationship, but they was partners. You know what the fuck that mean, dog. But I think she in prison right now for 20 years, doing 20 years or some shit. I don't know how the fuck she ain't get life though. You know what I'm saying? She was probably doing that. I ain't gonna lie, I ain't gonna say that. You know what I'm saying? We ain't gonna say that. I ain't gonna lie.
By the time Brian Vickers married Sarah, she had allegedly moved on from her role in the operation, avoiding jail time as a part of Epstein's non-prosecution agreement, cutting her losses, and starting off a new life as an interior designer. However, the ties to Epstein don't stop there. Brian also had a personal relationship with the Predator, which both predates and overlaps with his marriage to Sarah. In 2012, Brian forwarded an email to Epstein titled Male Fairy Tale, which I recommend that you pause and read because it is hilariously pathetic. But since the email to Sarah, in 2012, Brian forwarded an email to Epstein titled Male Fairy Tale.
A prince get married. The prince said no. What the fuck?
Which I recommend that you pause and read because it is hilariously pathetic. But since the email itself is romantically graphic, it indicates that Brian and Epstein were close enough to discuss these explicit subjects. The recent file dump also shows a prenuptial agreement for Brian Vickers and an unnamed spouse. We can assume the spouse is likely Sarah Kellen because Epstein also sent an email to a Sarah K that says, "Is you prenup not finished? Anything you want me to do?" Brian's name shows up in various other places in the files. In one email, Brian inquires about potentially meeting up to go bowling together, and others show mortgage loans taken out in his name. However, one of the most troubling emails comes from as recently as 2019, when Brian sent Jeffrey Epstein a video for Valentine's Day. It reads, "Thought you would like this. Happy Valentine's, buddy. Winky face." It's uncertain what this video is, but considering it was Valentine's Day and the two had actually explicit conversations before, in addition to their friendship and ties spanning nearly 2 decades, people are assuming the worst. The NASCAR driver's personal relationship with Epstein, along with his wife's history as being an integral piece of the ex-trafficking operation, leaves more questions about their marriage than answers, and the two notably divorced in 2025. A couple of weeks ago, Brian randomly posted a selfie to Twitter while fans begged him to address his obvious ties to Epstein. But if you thought it was shocking that Jeffrey Epstein's network expanded into professional sports athletes, it actually gets crazier, as he was also connected to owners of professional sports teams, like Steve Tisch, owner of the New York Giants. Emails reveal Tisch had a close relationship with Epstein, as the two frequently met up for Giants games and even personal meetups at his home. They also had personal discussions about redacted women, such as this email titled Ukrainian Girl. Tisch writes, "Hi Jeffrey, I just had lunch with your assistant's friend, redacted. Very sweet girl. Do you know anything about her? Thanks, Steve." Epstein responds, No, but I will ask. All confidential. I will get all info. Did you contact the great ass fake tit redacted? She's a character. Short term. Has an older boyfriend going to acting school. A 10 ass. I'm happy to have you as a new, but obviously shared interest friend. Steve Tisch then asks if the girl is a professional ex-worker or a regular civilian, to which Epstein cryptically responds, send me a number to call. I don't like records of these conversations. Only for Epstein to report back to Tisch, you did very well. She wants to go to the play. She is a little freaked out by the age difference, but go slow and wait. I will try to convince her not to return to Ukraine. Having her crying worked. If Epstein was concerned about records of this conversation, many are assuming that the two men were discussing some sort of illegal...
What the fuck going on, man? Hell no. That's nasty as fuck, bro.
Activity. And
we could just only wonder what the fuck really happened with these messages, bro, these emails and shit.
With Epstein's track record, it's hard to imagine they're simply discussing consenting adult workers. Another email correspondence shows Epstein trying to connect Steve to more girls. Steve asks if he can expect any trouble. Epstein suggests inviting a Russian girl and gives Steve's her contact information. One conversation shows Epstein mentioning that he has a new present for Steve and asks for a time to meet for lunch. Steve asks, is my present in New York City? And can I get my surprise to take to lunch tomorrow? While the two are attempting to speak in coded language, it's hard to see this as anything other than discussing a human being, specifically a girl. We also see a correspondence between Steve and an anonymous girl. Hi, redacted. How are you today? Jeffrey Epstein is very excited about you and I meeting each other. I like that idea. Do you? After not hearing back from the girl, Steve forwarded the email chain to Epstein, informing him that the girl he had set her up with had fallen through. Not only were Steve and Epstein close, it was very clear that their relationship was heavily predicated around Jeffrey introducing him to much younger women. There is no direct confirmation that any of these girls were under the age of consent, which is a fact that Steve used to his advantage in his official response. We had a brief association where we exchanged emails about adult women, and in addition, we discussed movies, philanthropy, and investments. I did not take him up on any of his invitations and never went to his island. As we all know, he was a terrible person and someone I deeply regret associating with.
So what would you say about yourself then? Talking about he was a what type of guy? Like, bro, what are we talking about, fool? Like, dog. This should be crazy as hell, man. It's like they be saying that nigga Epstein was really just a spy. I believe it a little bit, cause like, bro, why everybody that's on the Epstein files keep saying coding and shit like that, talking about we was never friends. I ain't even fuck the guy. I ain't fuck with that guy. He was a weirdo. Trump said that too. Look at all them videos that you see about with Epstein and goddamn Trump. Come on, but it looks like everybody.
Most of the women discussed in these emails appear to be college students. As you can see, Epstein writing things like, oh, she's still in class. However, the possibility of other individuals being underage is not entirely off the table. Steve claims to not have been aware of the terrible person that Epstein was, yet most of his interactions take place well after Jeffrey was imprisoned in 2008, leaving many to speculate that more sinister behavior lies beneath the surface. Now, I have to mention that not everyone found in the Epstein files is inherently guilty of wrongdoing, and even some found themselves in headlines for what appears to be a complete misunderstanding, such as the legendary professional skateboarder Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk has been a frequent target of tabloids, as his 3 divorces in 20 years was perfect for gossip and unfounded rumors in the media. After the release of the Epstein files, people were shocked to see his love life has become the subject of media attention once again. An email sent by a threat intake officer at the FBI details an anonymous tip.
Y'all niggas probably don't even remember playing his game, bro. I think it was a PS2 or something. Bro, y'all didn't even have the PS1. The PS1, PS2, man, that shit was it. The 3, 4, come on, fool. Playing Tony Hawk games on Plee-ass too? Oh my god. And your grandpa, grandma? Oh shit.
Provided by an anonymous victim of Jeffrey
That just
Epstein.
gave me
The
some
girl
let
claims
down
to
from
have been
top, you know
abducted
what I'm
at the
saying?
age of 5 and was trafficked for 8 years straight, enduring unspeakable crimes at the hands of various powerful men. At age 13, she found herself on Little St. James Island and supposedly witnessed Tony Hawk getting married to one of his wives during her time on Epstein's Island. Images of Tony's 2006 wedding ceremony were discovered, visibly taking place on a tropical island with beaches and palm trees. Plus, the photographer credited for capturing the ceremony was a man named Mark Epstein, coincidentally the same name of Jeffrey Epstein's brother. For many, this was all the proof they needed for the allegations to be credible. However, others see this whole thing as a misunderstanding. The wedding from 2006 was actually held in Fiji, thousands of miles away from Little St. James, and the Mark Epstein who photographed the event has no blood relation to the infamous human trafficker. Tony Hawk personally clarified in a post made to his Instagram that his first 2 weddings were held in California, his third in Fiji, and his most recent in 2015 was at the Adair Manor in Limerick, Ireland, a prestigious 5-star luxury hotel. The key to solving this mix-up is written in this report. She flew to Ireland for politicians and notable men. They would have sex with the young woman, and she was taken from Ireland and brought to Jeffrey Epstein's island when she was 13 years old. It's likely that the powerful men took advantage of the young girl during her stay at the hotel in Ireland, which happened to be at the exact same time that Tony Hawk was being married, and she potentially witnessed the wedding ceremony when it occurred. But since she was immediately taken to Epstein's island right after, she potentially mixed up the 2 events since they were in such close proximity to each other. Plus, she submitted this report 10 years after this happened. It's extremely common for victims of prolonged abuse to misremember key details, especially considering she was a child. And while Tony Hawk's situation seems to be a misunderstanding, Woody Allen's connections to Epstein are far more suspicious. Woody Allen has been controversial long before his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein was revealed. He was the subject of...
So we're gonna give Tony a pass. Right. So it's like, not everybody in there was on some crazy shit. It was just the crazy shit that we heard. You know what I'm saying? That we seen and that we read on goddamn files and shit. You feel me? That's what I said.
Of SA allegations by his adopted daughter Dylan Farrow, who claims he had abused her at only 7 years old. These allegations were corroborated by his now ex-wife Mia Farrow, alleging that he had also abused their son Satchel at only 5 years old. These allegations have never been proven accurate in a court of law. However, Woody's behavior with other adoptive children makes them difficult to doubt. In 1997, Woody married Mia Farrow's other adopted daughter, Sunyi Previn, who was only 10 years old when she first met the disgraced filmmaker. Safe to say, people weren't all too surprised to find out that this guy was rubbing shoulders with the most notorious predator to ever exist. In September of 2025, Allen spoke with The Times where he discussed a dinner event he attended with Epstein in 2010, months after he was released from prison, claiming to be unaware of why Jeffrey was locked up. He told us he'd been in jail and that he had been, I can't remember the word, but that he'd been falsely put in jail in some way. But even after learning the full truth, he still went on to describe Epstein as charming and personable. Woody seemed to be entirely unfazed that his friend was a predator, and when asked if he regretted his frequent visits to his home, he said, "Well, I'm a writer, so I don't get put off. Those dinners were fascinating, and when it was all uncovered, it becomes interesting to a writer, because then you're dealing with a kind of nefarious character on your doorstep." So basically, he thought Jeffrey was an interesting character for a story instead of what he actually was, a horrible, disgusting criminal. Hundreds of pages of text conversations
he was
between
probably
Allen.
gonna write a book about his ass. Why wouldn't I? You might as well just let them have dinner with him if you gonna make a book about his ass. You know what I'm saying? You know how he coming already. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that.
Allen and Epstein have been made public. Some show the two setting up dinner plans, and others show discussions about an article that was released talking about his alleged assaults on his stepchildren. Emails between Epstein and Woody's wife, Soon-Yi, show Epstein referring to Woody's scandal as a witch hunt. He writes, "Have to be careful. The crowd needs a witch to burn, and there are not many left." It also appears that Epstein pulled a few favors for Allen. In one text message, we see Woody thanking him for supposedly assisting his daughter in getting accepted to Bard College. president of BARD, Leon Botstein, rejected Epstein's involvement in her acceptance, calling him a serial liar who apparently took credit for the sun rising each day. Epstein also seemed to take credit for facilitating a tour of the White House for Woody and his wife in 2015, with the help of former White House counsel Kathy Rumler. While there doesn't appear to be any direct evidence of them committing crimes together, Woody Allen's personal scandals and him clearly being friends with Epstein don't make him look any less guilty. And what you'll notice is that Epstein frequently associated with men who had their own ex-scandals, such as Brett Ratner. Brett Ratner is best known for his role as director of the Rush Hour trilogy. However, he most recently got attention as the director of Melania, a documentary following the life of the First Lady, Melania Trump. Pictures released by the Department of Justice show Ratner, Epstein, and two anonymous women all cozied up together, Ratner sporting a devious and unsettling look on his face. He responded to the photos immediately. About 20 years ago, I had a girlfriend. I was in love with her. We were engaged. She was my fiancée. We went to an event and we were sitting on the couch and the photo was taken at that event. I didn't have a personal relationship with him. I didn't know him. And that's where the picture was taken. I didn't even remember because I'd been asked in the past, do you know him? And I'm like, I don't think so, because I didn't have a personal relationship with him. While Brett chalks up the photo to a chance encounter, it appears to be far from the case. In an email from 2012, a woman named Peggy said to Jeffrey Epstein, sitting next to Brett Ratner, he produced Woody's 3-hour documentary that was just shown at Cannes. We are about to see the Roman Polanski documentary. Brett says hi, and he loves you. We also see emails sent to Ratner directly, in which Epstein is trying to...
Why they've been texting, they was texting, well not texting, but they was talking. They was texting and typing on them fucking emails and shit like they texting and she might as well just call the motherfucker.
Call him about something that has been redacted. Epstein also discussed Ratner's contact information with one of his aides, Leslie Groff, establishing a line of connection between the two. The two seemed to remain close throughout the 2010s as a meeting with Brett Ratner was found in Epstein's personal calendar in 2018. However, Ratner continues to claim that he never spoke to Epstein before or after the image was taken.
I was never been in contact with Jeffrey Epstein before that photo, and I was never in contact with him after. So that's a picture of me and my fiance at some event.
Ratner's history certainly doesn't make him look any better. In 2017, he was accused of SA by 6 different women, as well as sexual harassment from an 18-year-old
6 women?
Epstein certainly had a vested interest in associating with large names in the entertainment industry, but he also cared...
6 fucking women said that you did something to her? Bro. Yeah, pack it up, man.
Deeply about keeping close ties to those in the world of science and philosophy, such as Noam Chomsky. In 2023, Epstein's calendar became publicly available, revealing a scheduled meeting between himself and Noam Chomsky. When asked about his relationship with Epstein by the Wall Street Journal, Chomsky said in an email, "First response is that it is none of your business, or anyone's. Second is that I knew him and we met occasionally." This statement indicates that they were acquaintances at best. However, Noam himself has gone on record to clarify that they were much more than that. In a letter of support for Epstein, Noam writes, "The impact of Jeffrey's limitless curiosity, extensive knowledge, penetrating insights, and thoughtful appraisals is only heightened by his easy informality, without a trace of pretentiousness. He quickly became a highly valued friend and regular source of intellectual exchange and stimulation." Emails show Epstein inviting Noam and his wife to hang out together. "Enjoyed today as always. Come to New York or the Caribbean?" Noam writes, "Valeria's always keen on New York. I'm really fantasizing about the Caribbean island. I have to figure out a way to work clear of endless commitments." His wife, Valeria, also directly communicated with Epstein, apologizing for missing his birthday and promising to have their own personal celebration the next time they meet up. However, Valeria has...
What the fuck going on? This nigga wife was getting in contact with Epstein and talking about something, we gonna have a private birthday party or something like that because I missed it? Your wife? Man, dog. This like the same shit like when I seen something like the dude said he went to Epstein, I went to his island and shit, brought my whole family over there, kids and shit, for brunch. But we ain't, he talking about something, we wasn't even there for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We left. Bro.
now publicly come out to defend herself and her husband, who was recovering from a stroke suffered in 2023. Noam and I recognize the gravity of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and the profound suffering of his victims. Nothing in this statement is intended to minimize that suffering, and we express our unrestricted solidarity with the victims. She explains that they were unaware of his previous conviction of soliciting a child for prostitution and were introduced to him as a philanthropist supporting science and a financial expert. Supposedly, Epstein encircled Noam with frequent gifts and opportunities to connect with high-profile individuals for conversations. However, Noam had spoken with Epstein about his poor reputation only months before he was arrested in 2019. "I'd love your advice on how I handle my putrid press. It is spiraling out of control. Do I have someone write an op-ed, defend myself, or try to ignore it?" Noam responded with, "The horrible way you are being treated in the press and public. It's painful to say, but I think the best way to proceed is to ignore it. I've had plenty of experience, though of course not on this scale." Valeria claims that Noam was manipulated, and Epstein used him to help repair his reputation through positive association, but she fails to explain the fact that Noam and Epstein were photographed together on his private jet. It's unknown where they were coming from or where they were headed, but people will only assume the worst with surrounding context. But Noam Chomsky was not the only academic to be seen associating with Epstein, such as the now deceased astrophysicist Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking's life story served as a source of inspiration. He was living proof that physical limitations could never outwork perseverance and dedication. However, his reputation has since been destroyed as his name being associated with Jeffrey Epstein. It was revealed that Hawking visited Epstein's compound in the U.S. Virgin Islands to attend a conference discussing gravity. It's uncertain if any illicit activity took place during his stay, but there was a connection nonetheless. However, new details were revealed regarding Stephen Hawking in an unsealed email between Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein from 2015. Hawking was accused by Virginia Giuffre, one of the most prominent victims of Epstein's trafficking operation, of participating in an underage orgy. In the email, Epstein is seen discussing with Maxwell about offering a cash reward for any of Virginia's friends or family to disprove the claims. The claims of an orgy involving Hawking only exist within this email exchange, and since now Hawking and Giuffre are both deceased, it's uncertain if there will ever be clarification regarding this allegation. The deeper we get into the list of names, the more vague and cryptic the stories become. The lack of concrete evidence is good for those involved, however, with less information,
there's Stephen Hawking. He probably wouldn't even give a fuck about all this shit for real. Who knows, man? I mean, all he do is just type on his wheelchair and shit like that, man. Like, that nigga just going through the flow and shit, man. But I think I seen some weird ass videos on them Epstein files, dog. Boy, he bogus as hell. Bogus as fuck. I ain't gonna lie. We know what type of nigga you was. Yeah, you ain't had to have that shit. You feel me?
There's more room for speculation, and there are various names that have popped up with little context surrounding their involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. The most notable of these individuals is Michael Jackson, who was photographed with Epstein. The King of Pop has a long history of scandals involving his relationship with young children. While he has never been formally proven of any misconduct, theories regarding his propensities still remain a topic of discussion to this day, and discourse began swirling once again with the release of this image. By all accounts, Michael Jackson's affiliation with Epstein appears to be extremely minimal. This singular photograph was taken during a film festival in Palm Beach, and Jackson was supposedly house hunting in the area when Epstein asked for a photo. One of Epstein's victims claims to have met Jackson in Epstein's mansion in Palm Beach. However,
now that sound, see, he was setting the shit up this whole time. We talking about, can I get a photo? Yeah, put him on my files and shit. But it's like, once it's one weirdo, everybody that's around him, yeah, we gotta investigate all y'all. Cause what type of people we got in this earth, in this world, we gotta see, we gotta investigate everything. Feel me, bro? But Mike wasn't on that shit though. Y'all know that nigga was not on that shit like how he is, nigga, and how he was, bro. He beat his shit, and then you feel me? They got even more madder after that shit. You feel me? So they killed him, bro.
Stated that there was no wrongdoing to speak of. Justin Bieber is briefly mentioned in an email from a woman named Peggy Segal, who claimed she attempted to set up a 17-year-old Bieber with a 14-year-old Haley Steinfeld. Epstein took a particular interest in Justin, especially during his run-ins with the legal system. Justin Bieber also hired one of Epstein's attorneys for one of his DUI trials, leaving a vague but present connection between the two. Handfuls of other celebrities were seen photographed with Epstein, such as the lead singer of the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, and actor and comedian Chris Tucker, who explained that he had no idea who Epstein was, but was on his plane.
That was a humanitarian trip to Africa. I met him on that trip because it was his plane. I didn't know who plane we was getting on, but it was a whole bunch of dignitary people who was with a delegation. Yeah, I met him, and you don't know people, what they do in their private lives, so.
This would...
Chris Tucker, your ass better be safe, gang, cause your ass better not be on that shit. Telling you, bro, come on, bro. You better not be. I'm telling you, bro. Chris Tucker, okay, fuck. We already not fucking with Jay-Z right now, my dog. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just, I'm not saying you what. I just don't want to hear nothing about you, nigga. You feel me?
Explain why Chris Tucker was photographed with Ghislaine Maxwell. However, there are some more emails that indicate a potential closer relationship with Epstein. It reads, Chris Tucker will be stopping by to see J.E. sometime before his show tonight. No exact time was given. And Chris Tucker called to say he will be in New York this Monday and wondered if you could do dinner. While his humanitarian trip to Africa took place in 2002, years before Epstein was even convicted, these emails were sent after his 2008 sentencing, meaning the two remained in contact after the fact. Other surprising names were found in the files, such as Leonardo DiCaprio, Cameron Diaz, and Bruce Willis. According to witness testimony, Epstein would frequently brag to his victims about being friends with high-profile celebrities, despite never meeting them personally. Leonardo DiCaprio seemed to attend dinners hosted by Epstein on multiple occasions. In spite of this, DiCaprio denied ever associating with Epstein in 2024. Other names like Cameron Diaz and Bruce Willis are far less certain, as they only appear in witness testimony as names that Epstein would brag about knowing. Heavyweight rappers like Jay-Z and Pusha T found themselves in the files for the same reason, witness testimony, although they are more directly accused of committing crimes. An anonymous tip given to the FBI alleged that a woman was frequently abducted and drugged, and claims that on one occasion she awoke in the presence of Harvey Weinstein.
And I think this was around that time where he was trying to bash that nigga Drake. You feel me? Like, Jay-Z, your ass been on, that nigga Jay-Z, that nigga been on thin ice. You feel me? But Pusha T though, I don't even listen to that nigga. The diss songs and shit, I mean, yeah, I heard about him when I was young, but who the fuck finna put on that fucking Pusha T? You know what I'm saying? Pusha fucking T. Come on, dog. Come on, man. Come on, bro.
And Sean Carter, aka Jay-Z, while Weinstein inserted his fingers into Redacted. Redacted believed she was in Epstein's mansion in Florida. The report also alleges that Weinstein and Pusha T also attended the party and drugged her before engaging in abuse. However, considering this is an anonymous tip with very little factual information given to be able to cross-reference, it's hard to confirm. And surprisingly, considering Harvey Weinstein's history of allegations, this is one of the only places he is found in the files. Many demanded the Epstein files be released in hopes of receiving clarity, but it seems that all that's been revealed has only given us more questions that are left unanswered. One of the most cryptic discoveries in the files is a screenshot of a missed call from Rihanna. Is this the world-renowned pop star? And if so, who was she calling? What does this screenshot do other than distract us and leave tons of room for speculation? Then again, names we never could have imagined have now been connected to one of the largest criminal operations in human history, and yet a conclusion...
Like, her shit just got shot up a week ago, gone 2 weeks ago. Now, you feel me? Now, all of a sudden, she in the Epstein files. Like, whoever's pressing these buttons and who's writing this script and shit like that for the world and shit, like, you feel me? They working right now. The motherfuckers working. You feel me? They ass, yo, bro.
to the situation seems to be nowhere in sight, but I think it's safe to say that we cannot trust anyone, including Oprah Winfrey.
They said she been on some other shit, man. You feel me?
Who has convinced the world she was this philanthropic and kind-hearted woman, but her suspicious controversies tell a different story. But check out this video if you want to hear more about that.
No, bro. That's crazy as fuck, man. We getting new shit every day, so it's just like, bro, just giving us more questions and questions and questions, and folks. You feel me? Crazy.